The Texas sun was a relentless, familiar pressure on the windows of our suburban home. At 8:03 a.m., I was already on my second round of wiping surfaces, my fingertips permanently sticky with the gritty sweetness of peanut butter from Jabari's breakfast. My 3-year-old son was my sun, my moon, my entire galaxy, and our home was the small, quiet orbit we shared. The kitchen clock ticked, a slow metronome counting out the seconds of a life that had somehow shrunk to the 4 walls of this house. My gaze drifted to the university degree in literature, framed and gathering a fine layer of dust in the hallway, a relic from a woman I used to be. On the counter, next to a tower of unread bills, lay the lottery ticket, a flimsy piece of paper, a $2 daydream I indulged in every week with the groceries. It was a ritual, a tiny spark of what if in a life that had become a predictable loop of laundry, meals, and nap times. Later, with Jabari finally down for his nap, the house descended into its usual profound silence. I turned on the TV for noise, the local news a backdrop to my tidying. The Mega Millions draw was starting. With a sigh, I fetched the ticket from the kitchen. The numbers for tonight's record $50 million jackpot are, the presenter chirped. The bouncy balls popped up on the screen. And 14, 31, 49, 52, the mega ball, 11. My breath caught in my throat. I looked down at the numbers in my hand. They weren't just familiar. They were mine. The date of our first kiss, 7/14. The day we got married, 31st. Zalani's age when we met, 31 again. I'd used it twice. Jabari's birth weight, 7 lbs, 4 Oz, 7 and 4. A stupid, sentimental pattern I'd used for years. I checked the TV. I checked the ticket. Again and again. A strange, staticky hum filled my head, drowning out the drone of the news. $50 million, 50 million pounds. A sound tore from my lips, a half-sob, half-hysterical laugh. Zalani. The thought was a lightning bolt of pure, unadulterated joy. All his stress, the long hours, the weight of his small construction firm, it was over. The financial worries that had etched lines on his face and created a constant, low hum of anxiety in our home would vanish. We were free! In a frenzied euphoria, I snatched a bewildered Jabari from his cot, not even bothering to change him out of his dinosaur pajamas. "We're going to see Daddy!" I sang, my voice trembling, tears of joy streaming down my face. We were a whirlwind of happiness, racing to the car, to his office, to our bright, shiny future. I practically floated through the sleek reception of his firm, earning a sharp frown from the receptionist, Brenda, but I didn't care. I was the bearer of miracles. I reached for the handle of his polished oak office door, my heart hammering a joyful, frantic rhythm against my ribs. And then I heard it. A woman's laughter, low, throaty, and intimate. And Zalani's laughter, a rich, easy, carefree sound I hadn't heard directed at me in years. It was followed by a murmured, "You're incredible, Anya. He has no idea what he's missing." The world didn't slow down. It stopped. The joy in my chest didn't just fade. It froze solid and then shattered into a million razor-sharp shards, leaving a void filled with an icy, terrifying clarity. I didn't push the door. I didn't scream. I stood there, my son heavy and warm on my hip, and I smiled. It was a cold, sharp, utterly silent smile, devoid of any warmth. A predator's smile. It was the smile that would ruin them. The drive home was a blur seen through a film of unshed tears. The happy plans I'd woven in my mind just minutes before now felt like cruel, taunting ghosts. But with every mile, the initial searing pain began to harden. It transformed in the furnace of my betrayal, cooling into something stronger, a steely, unshakable resolve. Back home, my hands were steady as I hid the ticket. I didn't choose a sentimental place. I chose a brilliant one. I sealed it inside a clean Ziploc bag and tucked it into the one place no one, especially not a man who never changed a nappy, would ever look. Deep within the stuffing of Jabari's favorite, most ragged teddy bear, Mr. Binks. Then I stood before the bathroom mirror. I watched the woman there, her eyes red-rimmed but dry. I practiced. I softened the hard line of my mouth, forced a gentle weariness into my eyes. and slouched my shoulders just slightly. I practiced being the woman Zalani expected to see, the supportive, slightly frumpy, unassuming wife. When he came home, late as usual, I was the picture of domestic tranquility. Jabari was fed and bathed. A simple pasta dinner was keeping warm in the oven. "Long day?" I asked, my voice a careful monotone of sympathy. "Brutal," he grunted, dropping his briefcase and heading straight for the whiskey decanter. He kissed the top of Jabari's head, but his eyes barely skimmed over me. The irony was so thick I could taste it, metallic and bitter on my tongue. He was drinking to forget the stress of the day, a day that had ended in another woman's arms, while his wife, holding the key to his freedom, was silently plotting his destruction. That night, I moved with the cold focus of a spy. I watched him input his phone passcode, our wedding date a final pathetic joke, as he checked a late-night email. When his breathing deepened into sleep, I took the phone. The evidence was a torrent of digital filth. Flirtatious texts with a woman named Anya Petrova, a junior architect at his firm. Photos from hotel rooms I recognized from his business trips. Receipts for dinners at restaurants he'd told me were too fancy. There was even a thread discussing me, with Zalani calling me distant and obsessed with the kid. I didn't cry. A strange calm settled over me. With surgical precision, I took screenshots of everything. The texts, the photos, the receipts. I forwarded them to a secret, newly created email address, thesilentwinner@eggmail.com. I was no longer a betrayed wife. I was a prosecutor, and I was building my case. The next day, from the privacy of a library computer, I began my research. I needed a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but a shark. I found Eleanor Vance, a renowned divorce and asset protection attorney known for her discretion and ruthlessness. Our first consultation was via a secure video call, my camera off, my voice digitally altered. "I need to claim a significant lottery prize anonymously and prepare for a divorce where my husband cannot touch a penny of it," I stated, my voice steady. Eleanor, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, didn't flinch. "Then we create a fortress," she said. She walked me through setting up a legal entity, a blind trust, to claim the prize. The money would be managed by a trustee, its owner a secret. I was becoming a ghost, a specter of immense wealth haunting a life that didn't know it was already dead. With a small, initial transfer of $50,000 into a new, private bank account, I felt the shift in the universe. The power was now mine. I needed to feel it, to wear it. I went to a high-end boutique in a part of town I never visited. The staff, clad in minimalist black, initially looked through me. But then I pointed to a stunning emerald green tailored dress. "My size, please," I said, my voice quiet but firm. When I emerged from the changing room, the reflection was of a stranger. Elegant, powerful. I paid in crisp new $50 notes from the bank, watching their attitudes transform from indifference to obsequious respect. It was more than a purchase. It was a baptism. I had shed my old skin. At my direction, delivered through Eleanor, the covert campaign began. A key investor in Zalani's flagship waterfront development received an anonymous tip about potential ground instability on the site. The investor, spooked, pulled his funding. Days later, the project was hit with unexpected regulatory hurdles, environmental surveys and zoning permits that were suddenly under review, causing costly delays. Zalani started coming home even later, his face drawn, his phone constantly buzzing with frantic calls. Meanwhile, in her trendy apartment, Anya was frustrated. Zalani had been distant, stressed, canceling their usual trysts. He kept promising to leave his cold wife, but now it felt like empty words. Then, a beautiful, extravagant bouquet of rare black roses arrived at her office with no card. The next day, a delivery of a bottle of vintage Dom Perignon. Then, a small velvet box containing a pair of diamond stud earrings far more expensive than anything Zalani had ever given her. It sowed seeds of doubt and dissatisfaction. Was Zalani really the powerful, generous man she thought he was? Or was he holding out on her? While their worlds crumbled, I built mine. I hired a no-nonsense personal trainer, pushing my body until it was strong and resilient. I sat in a chic salon and watched as years of dull, practical hair fell to the floor, replaced by a sophisticated, sharp bob. Most importantly, I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Evans, to unpack the years of emotional neglect I had endured. In her calm office, I learned that my silence wasn't virtue. It was self-erasure. I began viewing houses online, secure, beautiful homes with gardens for Jabari. I was no longer planning an escape. I was building a kingdom. I carefully planted the seed. After a particularly bad day, I helped Zalani by cleaning out his car. I found a crumpled receipt for a diamond necklace from a jeweler I knew Anya favored, tucked under the passenger seat. That evening I confronted him. I didn't scream. I let my voice tremble, my eyes well with genuine, devastating hurt. "I found this," I whispered, holding out the receipt. "Is there someone else?" He spluttered, panicked, weaving a clumsy lie about buying it for a client's wife, a last-minute gift to secure a deal. I let him believe his lie had worked. I let him hold me as I cried, feeling the victory in his relieved sigh. He thought he had contained a small leak, unaware the entire dam was about to burst. Zalani's business was now in free fall. The bank was calling in loans. Over a tense, silent dinner, he mentioned the unthinkable. "We might have to remortgage the house, Kem. It's the only way." I looked up, my face a mask of wide-eyed, wifely concern. I placed my hand over his. "Oh, Zilani, no. There must be another way." I paused, as if a thought had just occurred to me. Maybe you should let some staff go. To cut costs. Start with that new architect, Anya. Her designs always seem a little frivolous. She can't be that essential. I watched the conflict war on his face, his mistress or his business. I had forced him into a checkmate, and he didn't even know we were playing chess. Zalani, in a desperate bid to save his company, fired Anya. A furious, humiliated Anya, feeling used and discarded, showed up at my door. She expected to find a broken wife. Instead, she found a calm, composed woman. "She told me everything," Anya spits, her voice venomous. "The hotels, the plans, how he said you were boring and obsessed with your son." I listen, my expression unreadable. When she finishes, breathless and angry, I simply say, "Thank you for the confirmation." Then I close the door softly in her stunned face. I have my final, irrefutable witness. The final pieces clicked into place. I transferred the funds for a beautiful, modern glass and steel house on a secure, gated property. I quietly packed our most precious belongings, photo albums, Jabari's favorite toys, my new life. With Eleanor, I finalized the divorce papers. The prenup he'd insisted on to protect his business would now be his undoing, coupled with the overwhelming evidence of his infidelity. He would be left with nothing but the ruins of the life he built on lies. Zalani came home to a house stripped of its soul. The furniture was gone, the walls bare. Only the kitchen table remained. I stood beside it, dressed in the emerald green power dress, the divorce papers laid out before me. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice a mixture of confusion and rage. "It's over, Zalani," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I know about Anya. I know about the hotel on 5th Street. I also know about Sarah from the planning committee 2 years ago." His face paled. How could you? "And I know," I continued, cutting him off, "that the investor who pulled out? That was me. The regulatory delays? That was me. The anonymous tip? Me." I let the words hang in the empty space between us. "The 50 million lottery winner you read about in the papers last month? That was also me." I watched as the truth dismantled him piece by piece. His pride, his secrets, his future. He crumbled, first pleading, then raging, but his fury was impotent. The law, the money, the power, it was all on my side. Zalani's downfall was swift and public. Jones Construction filed for bankruptcy. The story of his infidelity and financial ruin was a minor scandal in the local business pages. He became a ghost, a cautionary tale, 1 year later. Jabari and I are in the sun-drenched garden of our new home. He's thriving at his new nursery, making friends. I am no longer just Kem T, the wife. I am Kem T, the founder of the Phoenix Foundation, a charity that provides legal and financial support to women leaving abusive and betraying relationships. I look at my son, his laughter echoing in the air, and I feel a peace I never thought possible. The $50 million bought us security, but it was the betrayal that gifted me my strength. I had lost a husband, but I had found myself. And that I knew was the real jackpot.